Barry, when you talked about the home kit and showed us how to remove a scratch, it reminded me that we've talked with many people who are really afraid to put that kind of an abrasive on their very expensive piece of stainless steel. They're afraid that they're going to end up doing more damage. What would you say to them?
Well, and I understand that, and I was sensitive to that in the very beginning, Ron. That's why I insisted the idea of developing this video. First, the video as an introduction shows everyone about how to put the process together, how the abrasive process works. And on a $30,000 Lockhart new appliance, I'm having to create scratch lines, and again, it's on the video. They'll see how I'm actually removing this aberrant scratch and putting it into a proper grain scratch by having to sand it or abrasive with a pretty aggressive scratching. So what I wanted to do was to get you to overcome, or the customer to overcome, the idea that I'm actually going to scratch this to make the repair. It's going to look worse before it looks better. And that's part of the process. That's understanding that's how it has to happen. Look, Ron, what's important to understand is that this is a beautiful finish. This is what we pay a lot of money for. This is a fraction of a bullnose. This is a decor stove, and a bullnose might be about 4 feet long on this. We've made it smaller for demonstration purposes. But this bullnose would be what you'd see on the front of your stove. The grain, we call it a grain in the profession. The grain on this case is going this direction. It's a very fine finish grain. But it's important to understand that this grain that we spend a lot of money for, and on a refrigerator, maybe the grain is going from top to bottom. Let's look at some pictures behind me for a second. We look at this grain right here on this picture. The grain is going across the face of this. This happens to be a wolf bullnose. These are scratch lines. These are things that we don't like. But let's consider for a second that on this bullnose is a million scratches. They just happen to be all going in the same direction, and they're in perfect parallel harmony with each other. So it's very poetic. The lines are all going in the same direction. However, they are nothing less than scratches, though. They are scratches. It's not until we have one line going in the wrong direction that all of a sudden we don't like that look. But that one line of scratch against these million lines of scratch stand out. So the process with Scratch Begun is to regrain this physically with these abrasive pads to get this one scratch going this direction back in line. Imagine a herd of cattle coming at you, and you've got these straight cattle coming at you, and you have one that's going out this way because he wants to go off the range. The whole idea of the cowboy is to bring that one cow back into line, so now they're all going in the same direction. That's what Scratch Begun is all about. We want to put that grain that's going off to the side and get it back into grain direction and bring it back into line. We have to do that physically. That's why no polish, no cleaner, no conditioner, no amount of any chemical in and of itself is going to get that scratch back into line. You have to physically, using different abrasives, put that back in by physically repeating the pattern process. But surprisingly enough, as long as you stay with the grain, using these pads in their proper sequence, the scratch goes away and the surface blends in because of ultrashine. Ultrashine makes the processing of the color and the oxidizing of the metal. So when I'm done with this little scratch right here, it blends in with all the other aspects of this range and stove surface. Same thing with a hood, same thing with a barbecue. So the process requires that we physically scratch and regrain, restructure the line, get it back into its place, and that's achieved by these abrasives. As long as we know, one, that it's not a clear-coated surface, so we're not going to damage the synthetic skin or a lacquered finish, and all we're working with is stainless steel, and we're working in direction of the lane of the grain that's installed, whether it be across this way or in some cases up and down, but we follow that grain pattern, we can't go wrong.